Hey everybody, I'm TJ Majors, spotter of the 6 Cup car this weekend. It's a lighthouse this weekend.
Well, yeah,
today.
he's kind of here.
Kinda here.
What's up, Freddie Kraft, spotter for Bubba Wallace this weekend. Good to be back here. I'd say TJ. Usually I got Brett on my right and then TJ's on my my wide right. Is it too,
Yeah.
Is it too soon to say wide
Very,
right?
very wide.
Sorry, but now we have Brett live from. I'm assuming you're in Orlando, Florida. Is that true?
Disney World has me held captive. Mickey Mouse will not let me leave this place. I want to get out of here just as bad as y'all want me to be there. Trust me. So,
That's
yeah,
good.
man, I was down here, watched the race from down here, and I was glad you guys got it in, man. I was worried about y'all for a little while.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. What's up? Hey, Casey, how are you?
Hey guys, Casey Boat here. First show of the 2024 season.
24 season.
And I would say the season has started off with a real bang.
Yeah, thank God. Thank God we have breaking news in the Clash world of they did something unprecedented, which I've seen people getting crap up to Bob Pockrass and Jeff Gluck and Jordan and everybody else about using the same word unprecedented, but it was.
Yeah, it was.
Maybe you didn't even know what the word unprecedented means,
I think
but NASCAR has never, ever moved a race up an entire day to get us the hell out of there, and thank God they did.
That might have been my favorite tweet of the season so far when Bob had to come back and be like,
Just
I don't know what else you want me to say.
my favorite
like,
Bob
you...
is my favorite Bob is Bob. Like, that's my favorite.
Damn. Brett, I heard you had something you wanted to tweet, but you were saving it for the show about the race being moved up.
Do we need to start that now?
Well, I mean, look, NASCAR. They didn't really have a choice here. But I was disagreeing with some people saying if we don't run the race now, we're going to have to cancel it. NASCAR has, in my lifetime, never canceled a race. Now we postponed a few, even postponed one from September all the way to Thanksgiving weekend. But we've never not been able to run a race. So could they have stuck around there and done it on Wednesday or Thursday? Yes. Would that have been ideal? Absolutely not. Not with all you guys have trying to get ready for Daytona. But man, just watching this race in general. I was a big fan of this race moving to LA for year one. I mean, all three of us were there. We talked about it on this show, how great the vibe was, how great the energy was, how we saw new fans in the stands. And for whatever reason, the buzzkill kind of come in last year. And obviously this year with the weather and everything else, it was a complete buzzkill. So watching that thing on TV, man, I was really missing the good old Clash from Daytona. And we've seen races leave places before. I mean, we saw Darlington lose the Southern 500. We saw North Wilkesboro close down for 40 years, and we see NASCAR come back and make it right. I really hope when they revisit what to do with this race, they put it back where it started, which is in Daytona with pole sitters. And, man, that Guadalajara and Mexico City rumor that I saw y'all floating around, God bless y'all and have fun, because I ain't going down there.
You know, I think that something that a lot of people didn't realize when NASCAR made this decision was, you know, and I didn't know about it until we got up on the roof, up on the top of the grandstands, the spot. Supposedly the rumor was floating around that we had to be out of there by Tuesday. If we didn't race Tuesday, we were done because either one, the city wanted, or, you know, I don't know if something was going on at the Coliseum, or what the rumor I heard was Fox simply had to break all their stuff down, get out of there in time to leave and get to Daytona or the Super Bowl and set up. So, you know, if you're looking at it now, I don't know what the weather's like now. I know it rained all day there yesterday. It's probably still raining there now. You know, if you don't get in tomorrow, now we've wasted 3 days out there just to cancel the event. So, you know, it is what it is. And I don't know. I get it. You know, I seen Nick Payne had a friend somebody that he reached out to him and texted him. And they were upset because they were flying out Friday night for the race on Saturday. Saturday night for the race on. When the hell did we race? Sunday?
Saturday night.
Yeah, well, we raced Saturday. We're supposed to race Sunday night.
But, you know, he was upset because he was probably going to have to eat or eat a chunk of the $1,100 flight that he had. Well, I think that's still better than flying out there. Now you got an extended room. You know, how many nights? 3 nights maybe, as long as we might be there till Wednesday. And by the way, good luck getting a room because the Grammys were in town, and I know our team was going to have to move over an hour away. So now you're going to have to do that, pay, you know, ridiculous fees if you stay downtown. So, I mean, I get it. It sucks that you had to, you know, you didn't miss the opportunity. But overall, in general, like Brett said, I don't think NASCAR had a choice. This is a decision they had to make.
Yeah. So, Brett, you know, you were very vocal about this when Saturday they originally closed the grandstands for fans. And then Ben Kennedy, you know, they did the right thing. They opened the grandstands up, made it free. Obviously, the buzz on Twitter was how empty the grandstands were. Like, what do you think the penalty is, when fans realizing like, hey, we can come for free, watch the race on Saturday. Why didn't they show up?
That's a great question. And we boast that LA is our number one market. And if we can't get a free ticket to people, I mean, that's Casey, that's going to be the $1 million question for me. That's why I said what I said a minute ago. We saw some of the vibe from year one to year two go down. I know ticket sales were down. This year I've heard they were down even more. Obviously, we didn't get to see that on Sunday because we didn't race on the right day. But I just think it's run its course here. I think if the LA market is this important to us, as NASCAR says it is, then run a race that is not an exhibition race. Run a true race. Because listen, man, Fontana, we sold out that place. And then we went through a run where nobody was there. And then at the end of Fontana's lifespan, people were back coming to the racetrack. I mean, we would get in traffic. We would stand in line at the elevators. And for whatever reason, this LA market buzz is gone. And I don't know how you get it back. But if LA is so important, we got to figure out a way to have a race that means something. We can't have, the colleague racing teams and Joe Gibbs racing teams. And listen, RFK the last couple of years, like that's a really long ways to go to not even have a chance to race. And teams are not selling this for a premium dollar. This is not a big inventory item where sponsors are dying to come be a part of this. Most of the sponsorship that you see on these cars for this race are tied to a bigger package that they're buying, where they're buying 10 or 12 Cup primaries and they get the Clash, season kickoff as part of the deal. A lot of teams lose a lot of money to go out there to not even get a chance to race. I'm not for it. I think you should know in advance what's going to set you up to make the race. And in this situation, they didn't. They got out there and it completely changed. But if you're a chartered member, you're required to go to this race. You cannot not go. So you basically have to sign up to lose $50,000 to $100,000 per team. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of the Clash being at Daytona and it being strictly an exclusive event. You either win a pole or you're a past winner. If you're a past winner, I think those guys were in it for, their entirety of their driving career. But, man, it was like something that you earned. There was guys, I remember hearing some drivers talk about it, like it meant something to them if you were in the Clash. Yeah. Just a little bit of, because you did something to earn it. You would get out, see these guys get out of the car on pit road after their qualifying lap and boast about, hey, well, now we're locked into Clash for next year. The only problem I have with Daytona is, for one, this package sucks at plate races, or drafting tracks, whatever the hell you want to call them now. I enjoy it.
Two, the last races at the Clash sucked at Daytona. But I think that's because we had pit stops. Because everybody kind of rode around to the pit stop. Then we all pit in different groups, came out, and we were all spread out. The race got spread out, and unless you got a late caution, it never really got racy. So I think if you,
it was all too much of a race, a big race.
Yeah, ideally, I think perfect world. The Clash is at Daytona with a package that works, and it's a 25-lap race. It's just because there's no reason to have a Clash where we just ride around forever. You know what I mean? Because that's what it got to. You'd ride around single file to the pit stop. Yep. We'd all pit. Then the field would be spread out, and then if we didn't get a caution, that's how it ran.
There has to be urgency.
Yeah, so you got to make it. Just make it a 25-lap dash where these guys can't just ride around and hope to survive. And unfortunately, we needed a better package because I don't think it's packed. Right now you're not going to do anything. It's going to get too wide.
I would sacrifice. I would sacrifice the package being where it's at right now and still have the Clash there because these guys are still good enough that you're still going to see the best of the best go out there and race. I'd rather see that than I would a pit stop race or anything else or a Clash at LA or something.
I just disagree that I think that if we had a 25-lap Clash now, the front row wouldn't change the whole time unless we got cautions or pit stops.
See, I think it would change a little. I think
we can't get a third line going. So how do you break them two up?
But with a short race, I do think things will be a little bit. There'll be more urgency to get there, so you can see a third line. We saw a third line little bit at some other tracks.
The only time we see a third line of these plate races now is when people are saving fuel. That's the only time we see a third line come into play. At the end of that race last year, when everybody was gun-ho, I made the mistake of trying at Daytona 2. I made the mistake of, here comes a little top line coming. I got up like we normally would, and every year past when the package was a little better, and normally that line would go. Once everybody starts pushing in them bottom two lanes, the third lane cannot, it can't, maintain its distance with the top.
Yeah, bottom two. I would rather deal with that than I would any of the other options that you had. There.
That racing was, I don't know that like you said, you can't go across.
Can't have everything
You can't
perfect.
go across the country and send 13 cars home. You know what I mean? There's got to be a better plan there, or some kind of. Obviously, they're in a bind this week, but the last chance race, I don't know, whatever. But I agree that
you can't convince me that you couldn't make time for a 50-lap last chance qualifier race and the caution laps count. And then you go out there with the guys that didn't make it and giving them opportunity to actually get a race in their equipment before the season starts, because that's what everybody else is getting. But back to you guys' point, the thing that used to really get me excited about the Clash in Daytona is it got me excited for the Daytona 500, whether I was working with a driver that was in that race or not in that race. We had gone down, we had practiced for the Daytona 500. We were going to qualify the next day, and we would watch the Clash on that Saturday night. And if you were a driver in that race, great. If you weren't, the drivers were standing on top of haulers or up on the spotter stand watching the race. And we were getting pumped up because we knew what was coming next week, the duels, the Daytona 500. I don't know that we successfully created a lot of buzz for the Daytona 500 by doing what we just did. And that was one of the things that was going through my mind sitting at that bar is, man, I got excited about going to L.A. I got excited about working at the L.A. Coliseum. We watched a complete shit show that year. I mean, me and Freddie and our friend Doug, we were elbowing each other going, watch this guy. He's getting ready to dive bomb this guy and spin him out. I mean, like, it was a complete disaster. But I think it's just run its course 3 years later, and they're trying to figure out what to do. And to me, man, you're trying to get a new fan, and we're going to go to Mexico City where we've already been, or Guadalajara. I really hope that rumor that Jeff Gluck and Bianchi put out there was not true, because, man, I think that is the exact opposite way we need to be going.
Yeah, I think two things, like going back to your 50-lap LCQ idea. In theory, yes, it's perfect. You could probably have squeezed it in, but God forbid if we did that, and that because it was raining by the time I got to the airport.
Oh yeah,
and that's an hour later because I futzed around afterwards. But if God forbid we run that 50-lapper and then we don't get the race in, now we'd be the first ones on here going, you guys are the biggest idiots in the world because we should have just got the race in. Oh well, too bad you didn't make it. But to your other point about the Clash, it also gave you an opportunity to know who was going to be the guys to beat that week. I feel like, you would see guys in the Clash and you go, oh, that guy's got speed. That there'd be times where people would talk about, is he going to run his Clash car in the 500 now or whatever, So, but that was just something else you'd lead into going, oh, look,
Yeah.
I remember the years Brad would win, all the damn Penske's cars are good again, whatever. But yeah, I always loved the idea of starting the season in Daytona, whether it was 2 weeks where we used to go for 2 weeks, or even when they moved it back and we were only there for like a week with a Clash on Sunday and then leading into everything else during the week. But
I still think the exclusivity of the Clash being of the guys that have earned it, and even if there is a lot of fall leader, that's still going to be a race that we're going to watch. You know what I mean? Like Brett said,
TJ's right. TJ's 100% right. To get in the Clash, you had to win a pole the previous year, or you had to be a champion. To get into the All-Star race, you had to win a race or be a champion. And when we look back at those Clash lineups, I mean, that was guys literally hanging it out, doing everything they could to sit on a pole to be in that event. And then, Sprint got involved, TV got involved. We need the field to be bigger. Let's make everybody that made the chase last year, they automatically get a berth. Like we made it way too complicated. I said we go back to our origin and do exactly what TJ said. Make it exclusive, make it elite. You are either a pole sitter or a champion if you're in this race. All the rest of you guys,
Back to guys who maybe had a great night, not so great night. Obviously, the DNQ drivers were very much a surprise. But, looking at a Chase Briscoe, Kyle Busch, Blaney, no surprise, having a great day. And then also like a Ross Chastain who really struggled. Is that a surprise for you looking at this track?
I mean, looking at great.
I got a question for y'all about Ross Chastain.
Oh, here we go.
I thought we couldn't wreck people intentionally anymore. If we did, like, we got fined, it was suspended, and all kind of stuff.
Who do you reckon?
Remember, drivers have been coming on and lying, saying they didn't mean to wreck. We watched Priest do it last year. We watched other guys do it. And Ross basically said, "Yeah, I meant to wreck Tyler Reddick. He ran in the back of me, and he made me mad." Like, which way are we going this year? And I'm not MFing Ross here. I'm saying, which way are we going to do this as a sanctioning body? Are we going to let these guys wreck each other on purpose and admit it? Or are we going to do what we've been doing, which is wreck them on purpose and lie to us? Which one are we doing?
Well, they got a day. They don't announce stuff till tomorrow, right? So now maybe you can talk them in. We have to drop this podcast early so you can talk them into throwing Ross into jail.
I just want to know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I'm also glad that Ross is still on the don't give a to her, right? But which one is it as fans are we watching for?
Ross was beeping his horn at me trying to pull into the damn parking lot yesterday. He don't give we were started early. But yeah, I mean, you talk about, and one of the things that like I want to touch on, which I don't even know if it's, I think I seen a tweet about it today, so it must be some kind of common knowledge. The decision that the 12 and the 20 teams made to run
19.
The 19 do it also.
Oh, yeah.
They ran scuffs.
Yeah.
Some of these guys ran scuffs in that qualifying session, and you know, obviously the 20 was top 5 pretty much all day in practice, and then goes and misses the race. The 12 has to use a champions provisional, and I just don't know the thought process there, because obviously I know the idea was we were all running our best laps the last couple laps of each session.
Yeah.
But then you noticed, you know, when you went out, like I noticed the first time we went out, the rotation of practice groups, we all ran our fastest lap, the last lap of the race, last lap of that session, pretty much within the last couple minutes. But then when we came back for the second round of qualifying, I'm assuming we all had the same tires on. Did they get extra tires? Did they give tires for both rounds?
Yeah. I think we did.
Okay. So they were the same tires. So they weren't
think so.
scuffs. So I guess you're just hoping that carries over. I assumed it was the same tires, but I was wrong as usual. But you know, I mean, that's a hell of a risk to take. But I get it. You know, you're running your best laps the last lap, but it just seemed like it took forever to get going.
Well, that's why they pulled in. You saw some of them pull in practice.
Yeah,
You know how
trying
they
to save.
Yes, they put 10 laps on their tires and they came in, but yeah, that was a risky call.
It was a risky call, and it burned them. You know, the 20 went home because of it. We were up there watching, and I was texting with Brett at the same time. Like, you know, you're looking at the guys on the cut line, or who's like, you know, there's 6 cars in that last group, and who are the guys that are the bottom 6, and you know, you're like, oh, the 19's gonna be in trouble because he's 3 from the bottom, and this one, like, and you're counting the cars. You're like, well, the 12's gonna get in easy, the 20's gonna get in easy, the 17 should be pretty good. And then none of them guys make it. The 12 gets a provisional, and you're like, holy cow, what the hell happened there?
Yeah, Eric Jones, I mean, all of them.
There was a lot of good guys that went home. Suarez was another one that don't expect. You know, there's some of them that you expected, but, you know, there was a group that you were like, wow, what the hell happened here?
I noticed a lot of them were in the second session. Did that make much of a difference?
I wouldn't say a lot were in the second. A lot of them were in that very last session. That very last session
yes.
never went out.
So I think it got better for the first 3, and then it fell off after that, because I think we caught it right on the downfall. Like, we were the first group where it started getting, because no one ran faster after us.
Yeah. Yeah, we were the 4th group out of 6, so I think we were pretty good. Our last lap was our best lap. So.
We were in your group?
I don't. Yeah. Oh, you were in our practice group. I don't remember if you were.
Yeah, but we went in the second group with the
group.
qualifying thing. Were you in the first one or the second one?
Second group of qualifying.
Yeah, so we were in the same one. Yeah. I think.
Which I don't know where the hell Brad was, like, probably one of the bottom 3 slowest cars on the track for practice, and then just go ahead and pull. Did you cut through the infield or something?
We must have. Yeah. And then we go to 13th on the board. I'm like, okay, but then I looked at the cars that were after us in the other groups, and I'm like, that's still going to be pretty rough. And then nobody beat us. Yeah. So, but. Looking back, Casey, who had a really good day, I would say from where we were, I'm going to say from practice, if you would have sat here and said, Freddie, are they going to finish top 8? He'd say no.
I'd say, yeah, that'd be the first 8 on the plane.
So, but to finish 8th, I think, you know, us coming out there with that is pretty damn good.
Shout out to Justin Haley, man.
That's what I was going to say, Justin Haley.
Obviously, he didn't get the finish that he wanted, but, man, to go out there and practice well, qualify well, run top 7, top 8. I mean, dude, hats off to him and what they've already done at Rick Ware Racing in a short amount of time. Now, the question becomes is what happens when we get to these big tracks, because that's a place where the driver may be able to make up a little bit more of a difference. When we get to Daytona, if he qualifies a second and a half off the pole, it means they got a lot of work to do on their restrictor plate stuff. But these next 2 weeks it'll be fun to watch him, because he's a good drafter too, Freddie, right? We've both been teammates with him. I've obviously spotted for him. I mean, he is a sleeper going into these next 2 weeks on you fantasy guys. For sure. And, you know, I talked to, because I was worried, you know, I saw they had speed. I mean, he qualified in the top 10, I think, locked in, you know, right there in his group. And then obviously he was decent. He started having some troubles probably just before halfway, maybe started backing up a little bit. And then he kind of maintained, I don't know, 10th, 12th-ish, it seamed like, for a good portion of the race. And then he blew up. So
he took the outside on a restart, and he couldn't get down. He lost a lot of track position on one restart. But other than that, he really solid run.
Yeah, I was worried when I seen him blow up. Like, is this what the trend's going to be? Like, all right, now you're going to run better. You're going to have a little bit of speed, but now durability becomes an issue. And is this a product of, you know, Rick Ware stuff or what? You know, because I didn't know what happened. I just something.
Yeah, I'm
broke,
not sure what happened.
And I talked to him after the race, and he said they blew an engine, and it was a Roush plan A engine is just, one of those things that happens. So, hopefully that going forward, like Brett said, he should be, they're not obviously going to be in the race. They'll qualify. Hopefully you see some speed in qualifying, and then Justin can get up there and play around with everybody a little bit. But yeah, it was awesome to see him do that. And I'll tell you who I think he didn't have the result he wanted, but somebody that had I think the best night was Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs was a missile. If he doesn't blow the entry on 10 to go restart, he's dominating that race. He would fall back a little bit, and then every time I looked up, everybody was in a pack except the 54 was gone. So that might be a foreshadowing of things to come. I think Ty started to come on at the end of last year, and you might see some really good things at him this year because that kid's he's very talented. He's got a lot of speed, and you still see some. We'll talk about it later, I'm sure, with Joey, but you still see some tendencies of maybe making mistakes here and there, but he's got plenty of speed to get it done.
I noticed that whenever Denny got around him, he was going to get back around Denny, but he made mistakes. And instead of driving at a 9 out of 10, he was driving at an 11 out of 10, and he got loose into 1, I think, and slid up the racetrack, and that was it from there. But he was fast, really fast, and just still needs a little bit of just keep your stay calm, finesse, and but other than that, he had a really great weekend.
Yeah.
Well, shout out to Dirty Mo Media family member Denny Hamlin on the Clash win. Of course, I'm curious to see how many times he'll say that he beat his our favorite driver.
We're gonna have to come up with a new line. That was cool at Bristol. I think it was kind of cheesy.
All 21 of them.
Talk to your boss.
Yeah. We're gonna have to start something new there. But I hope that's not I know he's got a new T-shirt coming out or something. I hope that's not the.
Hey, Denny Hamlin had the best quote I've maybe ever heard in NASCAR history on the opening of the Netflix show. And I'm going to paraphrase it, but he basically said, I can walk onto a golf course and I can birdie a hole that Jordan Spieth, doesn't birdie, or I can walk into a gym and make a 3-pointer that Michael Jordan misses, but under no circumstances any other athlete from our sport, any other athlete outside of our sport going to ever get in my race car and go faster. And I think when I have a tough time, explaining to people what NASCAR is and what NASCAR drivers are, I think I'm going to use that quote from now on because he hit the nail on the head. There isn't an athlete in any other sport that's going to come in and get in his car and go faster. So it's cool to see him featured. Obviously, I've known Denny a very long time. Cool to see him featured in that Netflix piece. I felt like him and Joey Logano were awesome ambassadors for our sport. I look back, and this was an unfortunate situation, but we became the biggest we've ever been when Dale Earnhardt died in 2001. It made Dale Jr. Elvis Presley overnight. I mean, TJ was around him far more than I were, but man, we went to Steak and Shake in Daytona Beach on an off week, and all the kitchen employees were on their cell phones calling their buddies. By the time we left there was 300-400 people there to see Dale Jr. because that's how big the sport was. Dale Jarrett was on every UPS commercial in the country. I feel like this is another opportunity for us to kind of downshift and get a lot of momentum because if we keep talking about wanting to do things for new fans, well, man, being top 10 in Netflix is certainly going to do that. I mean, look what it did to F1 here in America. So I don't know how they take and bottle that up and figure out how to grow it from there. But, Casey, I'm sure you've seen some of the promos if you haven't seen the whole show. Like that show is very, very well done.
I know there's some back and forth. Obviously, the show is doing great for the sport. I know fans are a little frustrated with who it might focus on. I think we've seen a few tweets on why they've only focused on certain drivers. What do you guys think about that?
I think that's the new fan. I think that's the whole advantage to the new fan, right? If we got an existing fan that's upset that their driver isn't on there, that's okay. They're still watching it. What we really are after here, though, is the new fan and expose them to how great our sport is, how our athletes are, how they treat each other, how they race each other. So I don't have a problem with a fan being upset his favorite driver isn't on there. The reality is get in the championship conversation and your guy will be on there because that's who, to me, and I'm only 2 episodes in, that's to me who it looks like they're highlighting, Freddie.
Yeah, there's going to be guys by the time you get done with it here in a couple weeks, there's some guys that kind of get left out completely. I think that obviously you're going to focus on certain guys and you're going to see how it goes. Like the beginning part of it, like you've already seen 2 episodes. So it kind of focuses. The first episode is on Bubba and some of the guys that are on the bubble trying to race in a Daytona. But at the same time, Denny even talked about it on the podcast he did right after the release of the show. He knew what this show was going to be. So not only did he grant unprecedented access to himself, he did it to his race team. And I mean, them guys followed us around for weeks, and they were in meetings. They were in the meetings right before the race. And I'm sure they had an understanding with the race team that, listen, if there's something we want you to stop filming, we're going to stop. But up until then, you have unprecedented access that I've never seen before. I've done 2 shows with Bubba back Petty Days and back when we did the first Netflix show where they weren't in any of these meetings. They were in a couple of comp meetings, but they weren't like they were with the Netflix guys at the track in your face. And that was just, and I know Brad had said that wasn't an option to them. Well, obviously you can't cover everybody like that. If you're going to all these meetings, I don't know how many film crews you got. So if you're doing all 2311 stuff, you can't do both or whatnot. But you see throughout the show that the teams that opened their doors to them were the ones that they kind of focused on. And they got a lot of access to Danny and them guys. And, I mean, you look at Danny, they're in Molly's bedroom. At one point, I don't think you're going to be in Rick Hendrick's daughter's bedroom or you know what I mean? So, Danny was the one that opened his doors to them and was willing to grant them unlimited access. And I'm sure other guys would have done it, but I'm sure there's other ones, I'm sure Hendrick Motorsports is probably a little more guarded with what they had going on. I'm sure I feel like that offer was probably extended to them, because these are the guys. You could see the one interview with Bell. They're like, they kind of made a list of the guys that we thought we might have to focus on that were going to transfer to the top 8. And Bell says, I guess I wasn't in that plan. And they were like, no, you weren't. But, Bell ended up making the final 4. So I think it's you got to play it out because you don't know going into it. They don't know. It wasn't a NASCAR production. It was a Netflix production. And them guys were kind of learning as they go, I think. And they kind of took the direction of, all right, this is getting, good traction. This is getting good traction. This is what we're going to run with. And they did.
All right, guys, I got to jump. I got to go to the airport. Y'all have a good show. I'll see you in 2 weeks after the Daytona 500. Jay, let me know what order I pick in so I can tell you who my pick is later on. You'll be sitting there listening to these guys ramble for the next hour, so I'm not in any hurry. See you, brother.
Later.
Well, moving on to some more preseason topics. Obviously, qualifying tweaks were something that was discussed. What do you guys think of the news and the changes that are being made?
I think so. Well, first of all, something had to be done. I think, in my opinion, I don't know where TJ stands on this, but it seemed to me it swayed both ways. Group A was at a pretty big disadvantage in round 1 because it always seemed like the guy that qualified 6th would end up starting, I don't know, outside the top 15 for sure. And it would be worse at some places. He would be behind everybody in the second group. I remember like Richmond was one of them. That was a big sway. And it's just time of day and track temperature and whatnot. But then you'd have it swing back the other way where the Group 2 guys would be at a disadvantage in the second round because they had just come off the track and their tires didn't have the same time to cool down as the guys in Group 1, which that's still going to be in play for the group for that. But this at least lines it up to where if you're the first guy out in the group, then you're going to be the first guy out. You're going to be the starting 11th or 12th, whatever it is, and so on and so forth. So I it's probably not perfect yet, but I think they took a step in the right direction and had to do something.
Yeah, definitely probably levels it a little bit. At least makes the damage not as bad, because there's definitely we were in Group 1 a lot in the beginning last year. And it was hard. Like you have to we had to claw our way out of it a little while, quite a bit, and as soon as you lose momentum, it's really hard to stop it and get it pointed back in the right direction. So I think this will help.
Yeah, I mean, that,
a little bit.
To your point, it would be almost. I mean, it'd be a 7 to 10 position swing if you finish 5th in practice or qualifying or 6th. Because you'd be 5th, you're locked in the top 10. No matter what happens, you're locked in the top 10. If that whole second group goes fast and it doesn't matter, you still got the same opportunity to qualify with them again in round 2. But if you're 6th, that you're at the mercy of everybody else in that second group, to where if the whole thing beats you, you're going to end up in the top, outside the top 20. So you had to do something just to make it fair. And I think in a perfect world, I understand we do it for broadcasting, but let's get rid of the groups and just qualify. Like, have your metrics. And line it up like that. Go backwards. The lowest guy starts out first. The fastest guy goes last. Whatever it is, and just qualify. Like one group, be done.
I wasn't even against the random.
The draw. Yeah.
The draw. I wasn't even against the random draw because, like I said, I mean, you can get wrecked. Some guy can miss pit road and hit you and flatten your tire and wreck you, and then now you're kind of screwed for the next week, and it's hard to get back out of that hole. So, and I also think some sort of random is random, right? I mean,
that's how they did this week.
How can you be upset at a random draw. It's just how it is. You're going to say some guys are luckier than others, but it is luck at that point, right? Like, and it also it might shuffle things around a little bit where you do get the oddball guy that has a really good, has a good qual one weekend and maybe a good car there for once, and it does. Then you got another new pole sitter.
Yep.
So, but yeah, definitely a step in the right direction.
And I think just to reiterate for those who are not aware, the new order is that those who do not advance from Group A will determine outside row for starting positions 11 through 40, and then from Group B will be the inside, right?
Yeah, correct. And I think I've seen some people question why that is.
Right.
Usually the highest matrix guy, the best matrix guy, whatever you want to call it, is in the second group. So that's why, because somebody's like, why is Group A lining the outside, Group B the inside? Usually the guy that would have the highest number, the best guy from the week before, is in Group 2. So that's why that row sits the inside line and vice versa. So I've seen some people thought that might have been backwards. It's kind of backwards when we go out. Like you want the last guy on track in round one to be the best guy. So that's why it's like that.
It's
so that's
set
why
up that way.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense. Okay, cool. And another thing to note, obviously Toyota and Ford have new cars or new, I think it's bumpers, right? Front bumpers?
New cars.
Yeah, new cars going into 2024. Do you see a change in how they run compared to Chevy, which obviously they won 37 of 72 races? I mean, do you see a difference there?
Yeah. I mean, I think that
they didn't make them worse.
Yeah, they're not going to go out there. I think they're basically redesigns, complete redesigns. Ford might have went to an all different car. I don't remember what model they used before, but now they got that Dark Horse Mustang.
Yeah.
So I think that the people at Toyota are pretty optimistic about. I mean, they think that we've made ourselves better. You're hoping you're making yourself better. You're not going to make changes like this and anticipate it being any worse. So, and I think we were consistently very fast, or they were consistently very fast last year, all the Toyotas across the board. So, that's one thing. The Fords needed to step up. I think they won the championship. They won every damn championship last year, but they didn't show consistent speed, I think, throughout the year. So they're hoping to see a little more consistent speed across the board. They were really good at short tracks last year. Mile and a half, I felt like they needed to gain a little bit of speed. They think they will now. And Chevy, who knows? They did not. The problem, I think, with Chevy was the car went away. Right? Didn't the model they use, I think
they
is going away.
got to figure out what car they're going to run.
Yeah, so they have to figure out what they're going to do for a new model before they can redesign their car. So now they're kind of stuck in limbo for a year, and they're going to be fine. But I think that they're not. If everybody takes a little step forward, it doesn't take much with these as close as these cars are now. If everybody takes a little step forward, they could be caught chasing themselves for a little bit of the year. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, hopefully, I think Toyota is very optimistic that they've made improvements. I'm sure Ford is feeling the same way, and Chevy's going to have to maybe play a little catch up if they don't get any better.
Guess we'll find out. Well, for those listening, be sure to stay tuned to Dirty Mo Media socials, because we're going to start a new segment where we can do a weekly fan vote on the best paint scheme for each race, starting with the Daytona 500. So be sure to stay tuned for that. You'll see it on Twitter, and we will share our thoughts following
vote for the 23.
day.
Just vote for
whatever.
We have badass paint
That's why I
schemes.
didn't ask you who the favorite was.
I was going to say, if you asked us, it'd be the 23, the 6. Brett would pull something out of his ass.
You got to include your apparel.
Yeah. And the whole team, the ambiance, or whatever.
Let's move on to Spot On, Spot Off. First topic, the Clash racing product exceeded expectations.
Exceeded.
TJ.
I'm spot off on exceeded. I didn't think the race was terrible. It was exactly what I thought it was going to be. Some guys are fast. Some guys hit each other out of the way. There's a little bit of drama at the end. It had everything that that I would say I expected in that race. So I can't say that it exceeded my expectations, but unique event. Glad NASCAR made all the right calls to get that race in. So.
Yeah, I mean,
NASCAR exceeded my expectations.
NASCAR well exceeded my expectations.
By far.
Booty probably asked me 2 or 3 times, will they move this up to today? And I was like, man, no way. They've never done it. I can't ever see it happening.
Yeah.
And Booty's like, I'm just going to keep willing it into existence. So then they finally announced it. And he's like, I told you. Which thank God for the best thing that came out of the Netflix series was that people got to meet Booty Barker on a more personal level, because he is the star of that show. I don't care who you say, who they follow, what driver you didn't like. If you didn't like seeing Booty all the time, you can go to hell for all
I got you beat, because whenever I heard it, the first call I make is to, who do you think I called? Right when I heard it.
Brad, to see
Not
if
at the
get
track
home.
yet. Definitely wasn't at the track.
Dale?
No.
Brad?
I called Herm.
Oh, yeah. He called
And I'm
me.
like, Herm, yeah, what are you doing? Oh, just get ready at the hotel. I'm like, Herm, it's you might want to get here.
So I bailed out. I ran back to the hotel because about noon, I think we heard that it might happen, and I think they announced it at 12:30. And so I was heading back to my hotel to get my bags.
Yeah.
And Herm called me. He's like, "What the hell's going on?" TJ just said they're racing today. I said, "Yeah, I think so." I said, "Actually, they just moved practice up a half hour, so I got to hurry up." But
he must have asked me 5 times. Are you kidding with me? No, Herm.
well, I would understand why he would ask you that.
Oh yeah, probably.
Oh,
They need a Netflix show
but
to follow
like
him.
So the racing at the Clash, it sucks. Like it's the same reason I hate Bowman Gray racing. Like you're just driving around crashing into each other and then see who wins. But the product on the track behind sixth is a minefield. TJ can tell you, we were all back there. You're just bouncing off each other. That's why when we got turned around, I think they played it on TV. Bubba's like, I'm in mode now. I'm just going to run through the back of everybody because we got dumped. We didn't. I mean, Bowman kind of launched Tyler into us.
I was going to say, did Bubba think Tyler wrecked him?
Now, before he was done spinning, I was like, I was a 48, shoved him in there. But I mean, but at the same time, the 48 didn't do anything wrong. Like you're just. That's all it is. Like you're on restarts. Bubba was like, this thing's like ice on a restart. Like you're just sliding until you hit something, then you take off and go the other way.
Yep.
So it's, I don't know. It is what it is. It's kind of a gimmick. It's kind of a spectacle. If that's what we're going for, great. But
the atmosphere is pretty cool.
yeah, I mean, obviously this year is a little down. But I mean, listen, I know people were complaining about the crowd. For announcing that we're racing in 2 hours, I thought the crowd was pretty good. You know what I mean?
I don't understand this part. I don't understand why, it looks empty. Like, I thought there was actually a fair amount of people there for the day that it was supposed to be, and everyone's like, well, it was free. But really, what were we supposed to do that day?
Yeah, it was free, but we told you 2 hours ago that practice starts at 2:30. We're going to put 12:30 out there. It was practice starts at 2:30. We race at 5. So, you got 5 hours to change all your plans for the day and figure out how to get to the Coliseum.
Yeah, I don't understand what people were all expecting with that. Like, it's everything got moved up so fast, and everyone what we were gonna do on Saturday though. Saturday's schedule was pretty relaxed. We were gonna qualify and then run those heat races, right?
It was so relaxed they weren't even gonna let people in to begin with.
Yeah,
that's the plan.
So I mean, I don't know. I think people need to chill on that, especially the weather there was not very good.
No, it was cold.
It was cold. It wasn't like a nice hot day where, hey, let's go watch this at the Coliseum today.
Yeah, it was. I thought it was fine. I just think I mean it's a gimmick, and it is a gimmick. It just sucks to go across the country, send 13 cars home, and then the racing. Even in the front, the racing is just kind of, if at any point, if you just want to move a guy, it's too easy. I mean, it's a gimmick. You can just drive in there and smash a guy, or the guy 3 rows back and drive in there and smash you into him and move him. So it's just, it's a gimmick. It's a spectacle. If that's what we're going for this, to attract new fans, I'm all for it. But that's what it is. You can't go there expecting to see a good race.
What do you guys think of this prediction? Amongst the Cup Series rookies this season, Zane Smith will outperform Josh Berry and Carson Hocevar. Spot on, spot off. TJ.
I am also spot off on this. I think that's going to be tough to do. And I do think I think Josh Berry will end up putting some solid races together. And I think Hocevar last year, he exceeded my expectations when he got in that other car. So I think out of the group there, I think Hocevar will be, if he can just not overstep at some points in the race, realize that I'm running 12th, I need to finish 12th and not try to run 6th with it, he can have some good runs. And I know Rodney will get that for. He'll, Josh is a good race driver, and he'll, him working with Rodney, I think they'll be able to put some really solid races together as well.
Yeah, I'm spot off for Zane outperforming these guys, and for reasons to your point, Rodney, for one, I think is the biggest factor that weighs in Josh's favor. Josh also has the most Cup experience. He's got 12 races against the other guys, I think 8 or 9. But Rodney always seemed to squeeze a little bit more out of that 4 car than everything else in that stable over there. Whether that was Kevin or Rodney, we'll find out now.
Yeah.
But, that 4 car always seemed to outperform everything over there. And then, Zane, these guys are all very talented. You're kind of splitting hairs here. I don't think one's going to go out and dominate over the other one. I don't think any of these guys make the playoffs unless they get a win at one of these
Speedway
drafting tracks or something like that. But, Zane, he didn't impress me as much as Hocevar did last year. Hocevar turned heads.
Yep.
He had them flashes of running in the top 15 with a Spire car where, You never really saw that out of Zane, not as much, not as frequently. I felt like out of Hocevar.
Even the 42, he had flashes.
So well, that's what I was meant. So then now you flip it to Hocevar, and the biggest trouble I think Hocevar is going to have is people are going to race the out of him because they want to see how he reacts. They know he has. If you took a poll in the garage, I don't think he has the respect of many drivers right now, just because of the stuff that he's been through in the truck series and some of the moves he's made over there. I think a lot of these guys, you got the new guy coming in. These guys try to get that guy under control right away. And until he earns their respect on the Cup Series, these guys are going to race him really hard. So he may have some difficulties with that. But, yeah, and I think Josh just, has a little bit more consistencies. And I think they Rodney will have that car maybe a hair faster than what the Spire car will be, the Spire and Trackhouse car. I think
Josh should have the best average out of these guys.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so Zane is a Spire car, right? Just Trackhouse like support. I think that help. Like, because I know the spotter's a Trackhouse spotter. I think the crew chief's a crew chief from Trackhouse. But yeah, I think Josh is just a little bit more consistent, but I don't think any of these guys walk away from the other ones.
Spot on, spot off. Austin Cindric is the biggest driver on the hot seat for the 2024 season. Freddie.
He's definitely on the hot seat. I don't think he's on the hottest seat. I think that Harrison Burton probably has to fit that mold. You can't have 4 top 10 finishes in 73 races in that equipment and expect to keep your job. I was honestly a little surprised that he was able to keep his job for this year. So if he's going to have to step up in a big way this year if he wants to continue on in that 21 car into the future. But listen, you talk about Austin, like, how his seat is hot, TJ. Like Tim Cindric, obviously, I don't know what his title is over there. I know he basically runs the IndyCar program, it seems like. So that's obviously Austin's dad. He's a legacy guy at Penske. That car is the legacy car at Penske. I feel like the 2 is the flagship. How long can they continue to underperform? I mean, you go out there this week, they don't make the race. They were towards the bottom or at the bottom of the list both practices.
Yeah.
That car had 5 top 10 finishes last year when Joey and Blaney had like 17 and 18. How long can that continue? I know you're a legacy over there, but how long can that continue before Roger has to step in and make a decision?
Yeah. So ever since the 500, it's been downhill.
Yeah. 100%.
And even what bothers me about it is the places where I look at, I'm like, okay, who's going to be tough this week? His name's kind of left the list of the road courses.
Yeah.
And we've went to a lot of road courses, and just he used to be a factor up there running. I mean, even in an extra car, sometimes he was a top 5 guy, and now it's hard for him to even excel there. So definitely, the seat's definitely getting hot there, and it can change in a heartbeat though. You could come out of I'm not saying a good run at Daytona wouldn't help it much. But coming out of Daytona with a quiet top 10, and that's a springboard to the beginning of the season, just getting some consistency going. If he can start knocking off some top 10s and then some top 5s, that changes the whole narrative with it. So, yeah, definitely some hot seats right there, though.
I feel like, and I don't have the stats to back this up, but I feel like, if you take these 2 guys, and there's other guys on this list that have hot seats that are in prominent rides, I'll get to in a minute, but, Harrison came out the first year, was pretty bad. He was towards the back every week. And I think you saw some improvement last year, and I think that little bit of improvement is what kept him in the ride this year. I almost feel like Austin Cindric has taken a little bit of step back. Like, I felt like he was a little more consistent and ran a little bit better his rookie year versus how he did last year. I felt like last year they were really not very good. I think he's going to be fine, obviously, for next year. I don't think you'll see him getting replaced, but how long is that string going to play out before you've really got to step up and perform? And I like Austin a lot. Every time I've seen him, we've had a chat about racing or whatever. But and Doug over there spotting is one of my best friends. But you're going to have to step up at some point. And I'm sure they realize that. But getting at other guys, listen, if Daniel Suarez is a name that could potentially be on a hot seat, especially if you If you see a good season out of Zane, you see a good season out of SVG. There's 2 guys. I don't know how many charters Trackhouse is planning on having, but right now they got 2.
Yeah, by then they might have 10.
Right now they got 2, and they've got 4 drivers with guys coming through the ranks behind them, like Connor Zillage. So that's a seat that Ross is locked in. He's been a top, round of 8 guy, round of 12 guy.
That's
going to
be their guy for a while.
He's their guy. He signed this long-term Busch deal. It seems like so he's their guy. If Daniel doesn't pick it up and start performing, and these other guys come in and start running well, like Zane and SVG, that seat gets a lot hotter this year if he doesn't perform. So, those are a couple guys to look for this year, and hopefully they all perform, because I like all these guys. I want them to stick around, but some people got to go to make room for new guys, and that's what happens in the sport.
Yep.
Back to some Clash topics. In an interview with Front Stretch, Ty Gibbs said he's just mad that I ran him up after he and Joey Logano had a heated discussion following the Clash. Do you guys think Logano overreacted? I'll start with you, TJ.
No, I don't think Joey overreacted. I think, there's running a guy up and there's running a guy up, and he probably went to the worst stage of that you could do. And there's been a little bit of history here from last year. They got into it at Martinsville. I think, there was some run-ins before that, and I think then Martinsville happened, and everything kind of all got worked out after that, to where they were on the same page with stuff. And then I just don't think this is what like I said, there's a running a guy up, and then Joey lost. When I looked up there, he was all the way up against the wall, dropping back like Rose, and I don't think that sits well with a lot of people. And I can tell you this: if somebody did a Ty Gibbs, his reaction probably would have been even worse. So I've seen Ty overreact way worse than this already. So, and I just don't think this is something you want to. Your car's already super fast. You're probably the fastest car there. I just don't think it's the right time to poke the bear already again. You're getting ready to go into this long season again, and this is for a novel. What do you call this event? Like a one-off?
Yeah.
Exhibition.
It's an exhibition race, and I just don't know if it's the right time for that. So hopefully, it was entertaining.
Yeah. I don't think Joey overreacted. Obviously, I'd be upset if I was him. One thing that puzzled me, which I wasn't expecting, I talked about to Bubba on the radio, was I was fully expecting Joey to choose the bottom behind Ty and ship his ass.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I would just expect out of Joey. And I was surprised when he took the top. I was like, well, that's different. And listen, Ty made a mistake. I don't think Ty... I think Ty tried to get in there and maybe take his lane away, but I don't think he intended to run him so high that Denny passed both of them on the bottom. So, I think Ty made a mistake. We talked about how difficult it was to get tires to grip up on restarts. Joey, what compounded Joey's issue was Ty runs him to the damn woodshed there, and then he's got to check up, and Blaney gets in the back of him and knocks him out of shape, and that's what just compounded the situation for Joey. So he's frustrated. He ran top 2 or 3 all night long and was in position to win the race. I was surprised by his decision to choose the bottom there top there because you see who came out with the lead and won the race, the guy that chose the bottom behind the 54.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think Joey overreacted by any means. But yeah, to TJ's point, this is some history they carried over from Martinsville last year, which Martinsville was a product of things that happened. I can't remember if it was Vegas or Kansas. I remember them racing each other hard somewhere.
Yeah.
So they, it is what it is. I don't think either guy was. I don't think Ty did it on purpose. I don't think he meant to take him that high, and I don't think Joey's overreacting for being upset that cost him a chance of winning the race.
My problem with it is Ty. Probably could have been a little bit better about his answer and been more respectful in the media to it too, because Joey's going to go back and see the reactions, right? He's going to go back and see what Ty says. So if Ty's like, you know what, yeah, I just got in there really hard, man. I didn't want to get into him. We were having a great race. Give him some respect on the way. Now he's just like, he's just mad I got in.
And I think that's a product of also who it is. I think if he goes in there and he runs Kyle Busch up like that, I don't know, maybe not Kyle, might be a bad example because of his history at Gibbs, but somebody else other than the guy that you've been having run-ins with at the end of last year, maybe you played a little bit differently, but I don't think
you've already
I don't
made
think
this guy.
I don't think he cares.
But you've made this guy mad enough where he's actually taking you out of a race.
I don't think he cares. Do it again. Knowing Ty, I feel like Ty's like a little bulldog. He doesn't care. And if Joey wants to take him out of a race, then Ty's going to take him out. It's going to go tit for tat all year long, which is dumb. But I think that if you have no love lost, you're not gonna come out and go, kind of hold the hand of, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do it. That's what he told Joey. And to Ty's point, like I was standing there because I was standing there talking to Bubba when this went down, and Ty tried to take it in the hauler and take it away from all the media, and Joey wouldn't let him get in there. Joey wanted to do this out in front of everybody for whatever reason. So, it is what it is, and these guys are probably going to go back and forth, race each other hard, but hopefully they're smart enough to realize they're both going to be up front every week. They're both going to be competing for wins, and just if you want to go to war, you're just going to hurt each other. So, hopefully they're both a little smarter about it, and moving forward, just race each other a little bit better.
Let's move on to Reaction Theater.
Jim from Seattle. The racing sucked, plain and simple. It wasn't impressive. It was boring. Fell asleep. Good part of it. Nothing to see. Went back and rewatched it just to make sure. But, yeah, nothing. Boring. Track is too small. Cars are too big for that size track. They need to find a better place.
I think Jim's still
a new place.
Jesus, he's still going. I think Jim's still asleep.
Yeah, Jim sounds like a really exciting guy.
He listen. I don't disagree with. I don't think
it
wasn't boring.
No.
I don't think it was kind of exciting if you were watching a mid pack.
Sitting in the stands there, where me and Freddie were standing, there was always something going on.
Yeah, for sure. But I don't know how that played on TV,
dude. If you would have had an in-car camera or something, which I think there might have been on like McDowell and Ricky Stenhouse and them guys, you'd have had a hell of a time there.
Yeah,
Jim,
like my race
was
was super exciting because we passed the whole field twice, so we were having a hell of a time. But I don't know how much that got shown on TV. So I don't know who watched.
So
it
I did
here.
watch a little bit of it yesterday. Man, the cameras are so clear and everything looks so good, but God, they're zoomed in like I can see the details in the headlights.
Really? That's the problem when you zoom in like that. You lose all sensation of speed.
Yeah, it was harder to see some of those moments that we knew happened. But I will say, for things like Stenhouse and McDowell, like they did go back to it to.
But you shouldn't have to go back to it that much. I mean, you should be to me, everything was just zoomed in, and this is just my opinion on it. Like, I couldn't. I knew what was going on in the race at that point. Like I knew what I was looking for, and I'm like, "Oh, it's happening back there." And you're looking at the corner of the screen because you can only see two cars right here.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It just you can't see enough at one time.
We'll have to call Artie. See what Artie's
leave that up to Brett.
Yeah. He's probably still not talking to me because I didn't show up that day. How was Harvick?
I thought he did great. I thought him and Clint work really well together, which is he's a natural. Like it works well. I am excited to see what he does the rest of the season.
Gotcha.
Or that Fox time frame.
I mean, I feel like he's going to bring. Clint's crazy. I don't know if anybody else has noticed that, and he's kind of like a bull in a china shop, just bouncing off the walls. So hopefully, I think that Kevin will bring a lot more of the technical, analytical side of things to hopefully maybe combat Clint's wildness. But hopefully they were able to play well off each other.
He has that dry humor, which I think.
Oh, the two of them are probably a disaster together.
It's so funny. Like the dry humor. If you know Kevin, like it shines through on the broadcast, which I think will shine even more.
Yeah, I think Kevin will be a really solid addition. I've been fortunate enough to fly with him a little bit here lately, and he's a funny dude, really funny dude. And he's straight out of the seat, so he's going to be very knowledgeable about how the cars are and what's going on and stuff.
First one, right? He's going to be the first broadcaster that's driven this car, like full-time broadcaster that's driven this car.
I think so.
Because the guys on the NBC aren't, so that'll be interesting.
Hey, this is Tommy. I just want to say that I don't like the fact that they had all 36 teams there and then told a bunch of them to go home because of the rain the next day. Why didn't they just let all 36 teams race? Ain't nobody show up to that to watch it anyway, and they said the tickets were free, and nobody was there. I don't get it. You, Joey Logano.
Has he seen what that track looks like?
Yeah.
Hey, Tommy, I got news for you, buddy. 36 cars out there was going to be really ugly. It'd been a demo derby.
It looked like one of them Enduros.
Oh, my God. It would have been.
Back in the day.
Why don't we just start them 3 wide?
Last one running wins.
Yeah.
No, 36 wasn't an option.
Oh, my God.
And listen, like I get it. I've seen some people complaining about, not getting a chance to race or whatnot. That wasn't the plan. The plan was everybody's going to get a chance to race. Everybody was going to get a last chance race. You're going to have opportunities, and the weather ruined it. That NASCAR, this isn't NASCAR's fault. They had to do the best they had, work with what they had. They had a TV window that they could use on Saturday night for heat races that they had set aside for heat races that now you could use for the race, and let's get the hell out of there so we're not still there. I'm still there for 2 more days probably.
I just don't think people think about what all goes on in putting these events on. Like with the... there is an emergency. There's a lot of they had to evacuate some homes and stuff out there. Like there's a lot going on out there right now. The people that had to work at the racetrack, the emergency people, they have to attend to people that are having real emergencies right now. Yeah. Like this is not important right now. And then you have, the TV thing. Like there's other scheduling stuff going on. We have arguably probably the biggest sporting event in our country, right?
Yeah,
coming up.
Super Bowl.
Yeah, and they have to prepare for that. So, and that coverage starts, this week?
I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
starts today. All the media stuff starts, today. So, there's a lot more to it. And it's not only that. I don't know what's planned for the Coliseum this coming weekend. Maybe they got something else coming up.
I think I heard that this Coliseum was clear, but it's also a liability, right? You keep all these teams there.
Well, that too. You've got all of us. You've got people. You've got planes. There's so much more than just making a call what you're complaining about.
But I understand the frustration from fans. But I do think that on the other side of it, there's way more.
Let me tell you something. NASCAR took a beating doing this.
Yeah. If you don't see them complaining.
You walked around that track the other day. I can't tell you how many coolers I walked by that were full of drinks, full of food that's never getting sold this week because we're not having a race, or just
concerts.
Concerts.
I'm sure they ate that concert.
I'm sure they had to. They've lost their ass doing this way, but they had to do it because we had to get out of there.
You know what? I also could have told Brett about this, but we were supposed to have the MGK concert. Well, I heard that got scratched because of time.
Yeah, I mean,
not because of him, but because of they wanted to make sure they got the race in.
Yeah, and listen, somebody said they worded the tweet terribly where it said something about fan safety. The fan safety they said it was because the way they announced at the racetrack was due to scheduling changes for fan safety, which they're talking about Saturday and Sunday and forward. The schedule just got blown up because of the rain. That's all there is to it. It's kind of the NASCAR did the best thing they could.
I promise this was not their first choice.
Yeah, I'm sure they hated to do this.
Yeah,
they lost a shitload of money, but it is what it is, and that's what you had to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think honestly, I don't think NASCAR gets enough credit for the Chicago and honestly, they've been very proactive lately on. Scheduling changes, doing what they can. I think they've done a great job. Chicago, we had a record amount of rainfall. This was predicted to be a record amount of rainfall in LA or whatever.
I saw videos. Some of the people I followed from other podcasts live out there, and it's the roads are flooded. They can't drive. They can't move out there right now. So I mean,
they did the right thing.
Yeah, and then you got the Grammys in town, which is a whole other shit show on itself.
Yeah, I promise you, that guy, whatever his name was, that just called in. I promise you, he wasn't thinking about how you guys are even going to have a place to stay.
Yeah, I was going to have I would say, we were going to stay at the Ontario Mall, which is where we stay for Fontana.
Yeah.
So that is probably in the morning a 2-hour drive to the racetrack if you're going on Monday and Tuesday.
Oh my gosh.
And that's that. It is what it is. You got to go to work, but that's just another thing that with the Grammys in town, you couldn't get rooms on Sunday night. So now teams are gonna have to scramble for that. It was by far it was a massive win for NASCAR and what they did there to get us the hell out of there. Some of us
put a race on
and have a race, and be smart enough to realize I've got a window here where I was going to run these heat races. We can get this whole race in that window and utilize the thing's going to be on TV. It's just
I don't know how many phone calls they've had to make and line stuff over that, but
ideally you would like to have seen that call made maybe the day before instead of a couple hours before, but you don't know. Weather changes. The weather could change in an instant.
And it did get worse.
Yeah, it got worse. But it is what it is. They did at that moment. They made the best call possible.
Yeah,
I thought they made the right decision. I think the theater of Los Angeles and the Clash is kind of run its course. I think that we have a lot of people that like to go back and forth about where it should be and where it should not be. But I think the argument nowadays of the Wreckfest cautions happening at Daytona and just tearing a bunch of shit up, quite frankly, still applies to LA. Just some people like to see it on short tracks where they think it's more controlled, and some people hate to see it on the super speedways. But overall, right decision on moving the race up. But product, it seems as if everybody has kind of gotten over it. But that's just fans' perspective on that. So thanks for.
I agree. That's a good
A
call.
little bit of common sense there.
Yeah, I mean that's not common on this
One
show.
out of three.
But I appreciate that call, and he's right. You know,
Yeah.
and I think he's right about LA. You know, I think LA's run its course, and we have to move it. And I'm sure we'll discuss here in a minute where we're going to move it to.
To leave an audio message whenever you guys would like, call our number 704-802-9572. And of course, you can send in some questions for us using hashtag AskDBC on Twitter or X or whatever it's called now. This first one we've talked a lot about today is from Lena. If you could host the Clash at any track, which one would it be and why? Freddie.
Yeah, so I said perfect world, Daytona 25 lapper with the package that works. I think is the best option possible, but as of right now, we don't have that option because I don't think the package is great.
So wait, I got an idea.
Okay, good.
Do the Clash at Daytona with a totally random package that isn't what we're going to run in the 500.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Give
I mean, I wouldn't have to. I shouldn't have to build a new car.
No,
you know,
but
a
like
different car,
something,
so something different.
big
More
motor, big
something-
motor,
yeah.
no spoiler,
Something different.
huge spoiler, whatever it is.
Something different.
Just something completely different that makes it a unique product.
Yeah, and hopefully it makes it where we can race. But yeah, perfect world. That would be my perfect world. Would be a 25 lap shootout at Daytona. Get it done with Tuesday afternoon, whenever you want to do it. Sometime between Sunday and Sunday. Right now, I think your best option is
Run it Wednesday night. I don't care.
Yeah, whenever. But right now, I think your best option, if this is what we're doing, this is what we want to do, this spectacle to draw new fans, I'm good with it. I think you have two options. You follow the Super Bowl every year. Wherever the Super Bowl's at, that's where we're going to race the week before. Every city we go to, the Super Bowl has a major college stadium somewhere nearby that we can do the same exact thing. I think, or you take it international. The only caveat to that is I don't want to see this on a road course. I think if you're doing this to draw fans in, you're not going to get new fans by watching us run a road course race.
No.
So it has to be this, put this racetrack in a stadium. Everywhere we go has a major stadium where we can do this. Every major city in the world, I don't know about Guadalajara, but Mexico City, I'm sure, has some kind of soccer stadium or some kind of, they played a football
They
game
have
there,
ovals
right?
down there.
Yeah, I mean anywhere, but I'm
There's
just
ovals.
saying, like I don't know what the infrastructure is around there, but this has to be if you're doing this, I would take this track out of the Coliseum
Yeah.
and put it at Arizona State. You know, I think where the hell is the Super Bowl this year?
Las Vegas.
Las Vegas. Surely there's got to be a stadium out there somewhere we can play, whether it's UNLV or something we can go to.
Dude, there's a bowl ring right next to the big track.
Yeah, you can go there.
Run
you
the
know,
bowl ring.
whatever it is. But just follow. If we want to stay up here, follow the Super Bowl every year. Wherever we go, follow the Super Bowl. If there's a short track, great. If not, build one in the local college stadium, like we did this year. Like that was what I thought was great about the first year was that was where the Super Bowl was. We were
Yeah.
at there, and the Super Bowl was out there in SoFi. But now, you know. Or if we take it international, but I don't want to go. If we're going to Mexico City next year, which full transparency this is something funny that happened on Twitter the other day. I was on the plane getting ready to take off for California, and we had just talked to somebody. I was talking to somebody in the lobby about, are we done going to California yet? Like, is this run its course? And I was like, man, I hope so. And then Adam Stern tweeted, I think we're going to Mexico City or Guadalajara, and I was like, I'd rather go back to LA if that's the case. And it has nothing to do with race or xenophobia or whatever else. It was from the fact that everybody that went to Mexico City for the last race there, which was probably 15, 20 years ago, had a miserable experience. They were locked in their rooms. You couldn't leave unless you were taking a shuttle somewhere. You know, it just wasn't a good place to hang out. Like when I go to a racetrack, I usually go out and have dinner or go to a bar and hang out. Like if you can't do that in an area, like I don't want to be there. It has nothing to do with feeling safe or whatnot. Like if I'm under some kind of restriction, I know somebody that just went there for a race recently 2 weeks ago that said that they probably didn't. I was like, I knew this was potentially coming up at some point. Like we're going to go to Mexico City. So I asked them, how was the atmosphere? How was it? And they're like, well, it wasn't great. You know, it was okay. I wouldn't have gone anywhere by myself. And then that person ended up in the hospital for a couple of days because of something they ate. Like I didn't have that concern when I was in LA this week. You know, can I eat this? Can I drink this water? So I don't care about what the people are. My concern is the overall fan experience. And if I'm not going to enjoy myself being there, I feel like everybody's not going to enjoy themselves being there. So it was kind of tongue in cheek of like, I think I'd rather go. And I think if you polled the garage, I think it would sway heavily in the favor if you said, would you like to go back to the LA Coliseum or would you like to go to Guadalajara, Mexico to run the Clash next year? What would that vote look like? You know?
I'm going to LA.
Yeah. So, and it's got nothing to do with anything other than the fan experience or my personal experience at each place. But But the funny part was I tweeted that, and then I flew for 6 hours, and I landed, and poor Brett was getting demolished because I think people were remembering some of his wild Chicago takes, and they just assumed it was him, and they were calling him all kind of names, and I thought it was hysterical. And then he had a tweet that he didn't tweet it. So full disclosure, it was me, but it has nothing to do. I don't care. I don't mind leaving the country. I don't mind going anywhere in the world, but as long as it's a good experience and we're going to get out, have fun, enjoy the area, and somebody that wants us to be there.
Yeah, I agree. I got a lot to say about that.
Yeah,
Clearly.
I mean, listen, and listen. If that's the case, if you're not going to do that, if we're going to go to a road course, the best that's just like we talked about. That's not going to be the best racing product. That's going to be exciting for people that have never seen a race before. I remember that first year we went to. People when we were running into each other and wrecking every 5 minutes. People were on their feet. Every pass in a heat race, that place was on their feet, jumping up and down because they've never seen it before. We talked about that first year was like 40% new fans or something like that. They had never seen shit like that before, so they were getting excited about it. Take that to somewhere else. It's not going to be a great race, but it's going to be a spectacle, maybe draw new fans in. If you're just looking for the best race, let's go to Charlotte. Charlotte's going to put on a great race. It's going to be a 1.5 mile track. That's what this package is for. If guys don't make the race, first of all, you don't have to send 13 guys home. We can all race there. But if you do want to trim the field down and send guys home, they're going home. They're going home an hour from the racetrack. They're not sitting in, damn Colleague and Legacy. Out of their 4 cars, they had one make the race, and they landed at 10 o'clock last night because they didn't make the race. They had to load all their shit up. Then they sat there yesterday because the president flew in, and they got locked in the airport for 6 hours or something like that. So now they're there for an whole extra day. Didn't even make the race. So now you go to Charlotte, don't qualify, you go home. Load your shit up, go home. It's an hour away.
Well, I guess we'll find out about 2025 soon enough.
Hopefully.
This next one is from Bryce. We talked a little bit about this earlier. How much of an effect will the new Ford and Toyota bodies have on drafting and working together in Daytona? Freddie.
I think looking at I don't know, I wasn't involved in any conversations that went on but signing the car, but looking at the front of the Camry now, it looks to me like we should be able to push better. I don't know. We'll see next week how that plays out. But I think that was a big advantage the Fords had in the last couple of years was they were able, their cars lined up better and pushed each other better and could stay kind of connected, which was a huge deal with this package. So I think that going into it, I'm optimistic that our cars will be able to push better, and hopefully that comes to fruition.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna. Looking at the Ford, I don't know if it's gonna change that much. So.
Yeah, I mean, and it doesn't have to. I think you guys were.
Yeah,
I mean, as long as they went back to what they would have.
I think most of our changes are at other parts, not the very center of the nose where that would be a factor. Yeah. So, but like I said, you never know, and we will find out soon enough. I know one guy that will find out if it's going to push good or not, and that's probably my guy.
Yeah, your guy for sure.
So,
last one is from Mike. Expectations for Spire Motorsports after the huge investment. TJ.
I mean, from the stuff that they've done, you gotta think they're trying to make a pretty big step here. I mean, you don't do what they've done and spend the money they have without expecting some. There's got to be some expectations. Got to be kind of high for, in my opinion, over there. But man, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be super hard.
We talk about it on here before. You can't just easily make a 5-position jump in this sport, you know, and people are like, what does it take? If you look at the caliber of drivers, just go from a guy that runs 20th every week to a guy that runs 15th every week is a big jump. And that's a guy that's just outside the playoff versus a playoff guy.
Yeah.
And that jump is gigantic. And it's going to take time. You're not just going to go from where they are to putting all 3 cars in the playoffs or even really having all 3 cars in contention to make the playoffs. That's just an unrealistic expectation. I think that they would hope to get one in. I think, it's hard to say. Corey's probably their best opportunity just for the fact of, he can be a little more consistent at times. And I think he's getting better at being consistent. That was one of the big knocks on his career early was not being consistent. I think he runs a little better consistently now. I still don't see any of their cars making the playoffs this year unless they pop a win off somewhere. But, you never know. They could surprise us. They are definitely taking the necessary steps to make this happen. We criticized teams on here before about, teams like Rick Ware Racing who have taken necessary steps now to improve their program. Spire now doing – me and Brett used to joke around. Spire had 3 charters, didn't own a race car. They would, lease cars or lease the charters out. And so they're definitely doing exactly what they need to do to get better. And now it's just the process of how can they get better and how much of a step they're going to take a step forward this year. There's no doubt about that. It's just how much of a step forward can they take?
Like the step we took last year. Like,
yeah.
I don't. You can't. We won't be able to. That'll be hard to repeat.
Something that I think might hamstring Spire a little bit is the fact that Chevy is in this limbo year of the Ford and Toyotas are expecting to get a little bit better, and they're kind of staying the same. Maybe I'm sure small improvements somewhere, but that might hurt them a little bit. Maybe moving forward next year when they get a new car and we don't, whatever the plans are, they may take a bigger step, but that could hamstring them a little bit this year of taking a much bigger step.
All right, let's kick off What an Idiot.
Boy, I forgot about this segment.
I know. I was going to tell you, TJ,
Man,
you should probably come up early.
Trying to think of what I might have saw this week.
I mean, it could be off season.
I'll tell you, you want.
There were some good ones in the offseason.
I'll feed you one idiot if you want to call him an idiot because I can't do it. Did you see the guy that got the lead in the race with 10 to go, just below the corner every lap for the following 10 laps? Like brakes locked up, sliding through.
The guy that won the race? Yeah, the left front, the last 10 laps of the race.
I told Gabehart in the airport, I said, that car must have been unbelievable because that son of a bitch missed every corner for the last 8 laps and still won the race.
I think he flat spotted it once. Well, and then it just kept going back to the same spot.
But
I don't know if there's much load on that left front. You know what I mean? So just I
was laughing my ass off because he got the lead from Ty and then locked the brakes up every corner. And then eventually, like TJ said, eventually after you do it for like 2 or 3 corners, it's just finding that same spot and locking
it goes
up there.
To that spot.
But it was so funny to watch.
Yeah, that was I mean, he just got like, dude, just stop. And
it was funny.
There was some I think there was a handful of things in the off season though that some things happened in the Chili Bowl that were probably What an Idiot worthy.
Oh God! Every year now, you
there's
got to hold these kids' hand, I guess, and make sure safety equipment's on.
Yeah, that was probably my. I don't know who it was or how it happened, but
I don't even know. I can't remember who the driver was, but I seen a helmet flying off. Like he didn't have his helmet cinched on. That's God. That's rule number 1.
Yeah, that's scary.
I got one for sure, and maybe an honorable mention for you. For sure, the Andretti F1 deal. We didn't see this invitation to this F1 meeting because it went to our spam folder. Like, this is the best we can do. Like, that's the excuse we're going with here. I don't know if anybody has any backstory, but from what I read, they obviously got rejected for their bid, which sucks for America, like American motorsports. But then it came out that, Formula One invited them to this meeting about, going over this, and they never responded. And then Andretti came back with, we didn't respond because we never saw the email. It was in our spam folder. Like, how does that happen at this level?
But you would think
you're talking hundreds of millions of dollars on the line here.
But there has to be more than one email that gets sent out.
I'm just going off of what
I know,
read
but
last night.
Do you not think there's a phone call? Be like, hey, we noticed you guys haven't responded to this email. We're just checking to make sure.
Yeah, and then I don't know what happened at SRX. Like, I don't know. I don't want to call anybody an idiot, but this deal went down pretty bad for me. But left a bad taste in my mouth. Where you make a schedule, you have tracks. You tell your tracks that you're going to start selling tickets to these events around Christmas time.
And then you don't have a series.
They have these tracks are selling tickets as a Christmas holiday package, whatever, because they got the go ahead from SRX to do it. And then we get to, a couple months out of the season starting, whatever, a handful of months out, and they just shut the series down. Somebody like, Thunder Road came to mind right away because they really got hosed.
They didn't even get their race.
They did a lot of infrastructure there to have this race. They laid out a lot of money, for last year to get the race, and then the race got canceled because of weather and flooding. And now they're like, the caveat was, all right, we'll come back next year, and we'll just do that. And now they're never coming back. So now you're out all this money, and they had to refund the fans last year when the ticket sales. So I mean that's a tough deal, and it's not. And nobody's an idiot, but that was just a bad business practice in my opinion. It left a bad taste in my mouth where you kind of left these tracks out to dry when you probably knew or should have had an idea maybe to hold off a little bit on ticket sales and whatnot.
I just blame Paul Tracy.
Yeah.
All right. DBC picks for Daytona. Do we know Brett's?
Are we ever going to do dinner? Because I have not had dinner
I forgot
yet.
about that. You know, did you?
Yeah, I bet you
guys
did forget about
meet
it.
me tonight. No, I did forget about it. I'll be at Big Al's as soon as this is over.
No, we're going to Epic or something, man.
Epic's still shut down.
Closed.
Wow, we'll wait till it opens.
All right.
Well,
Once Epic opens up.
Tyler.
Yeah, is Tyler coming?
Yeah, Tyler has said that he wants to invite himself, and he has a car service. So we'll do steak 48.
All right, that's fine.
Well, Ross going to bring him?
Ross. The funny part of that race was after the race, I went down there to see Bubba real quick because we had to kind of walk through there to go to the parking lot, and so I'm talking to Bubba, and I seen that after I said something to Nick Payne, who spots for Tyler. I was like, "What the hell happened? Why is he running in the wall?" And Nick's like, "I honestly have no idea." So then he asked Tyler, and Tyler's like, "I don't know. Like, what happened?
Yeah.
Did you see it? Like, what happened? Like,
I
they
saw the
kind of run
replay.
into each other, coming to the checker, which you're not going to slow down. You're coming to the checker
Well,
flag. Which is not for
he
anything.
said he shot him into that one rack.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
From what nobody really knew. Even like Ty Norris, I think, came over and was like, "Tyler, what's going on? Like, why is Ross so upset?" And Tyler was like, "I don't know." So nobody really knew, and it's just, I mean, I see anything with like Ricky and McDowell trying to kill each other under
Oh,
caution.
dude.
Like,
You should have hung out back there in that area.
Or
with
John-
I
Ricky.
was behind them. They almost ran me.
Yeah.
John Hunter
Bubba
Nemechek,
into the
too.
inside wall.
Ricky went over to
John Hunter
Nemechek's car.
I seen that during the break. You got to be real mad.
Did you
to
see
do
how that started? Because
I
he-
see where John Hunter was 3 wide on the bottom.
Yeah, because he gouged him out of the way for the lucky dog. Like, what are you doing? We're going to have like 7 more
How many
cautions.
laps down was John Hunter? Every caution, he was a lucky dog.
Well, I have my pick if you would like me to go.
You go first, Casey. Have at it.
I'll take Riley.
Riley Herbst.
You were in a hurry to do that.
Had it planned, guys.
What an idiot.
So somebody fed her that one for sure.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Right,
I
right.
just planned ahead.
I mean, you don't want to win the race?
It's literally Daytona. Anybody could win.
So you think Riley's going to win? Okay.
I'm going to
Gotcha.
I'm going to qualifying results, not race results. For
It's
my
anybody.
Pick, just so you know. All right, who's going next? You want to go, TJ?
Nah, you go ahead.
I got to look at a list here first.
Are we laying up or
I'm
what?
picking Justin Haley.
I knew you were going
That's
to
a
do that.
good pick.
Oh, man.
That's not a layup either. That kid can draft. He's won a lot of
I
great
agree.
races.
You're laying up.
I mean, it's not. If
It's
I'm
like
picking, if you maybe pick to bet, which we can't bet, but if you maybe bet to win the race,
I
no,
mean,
I wouldn't.
so
pick
it's like an
Justin
alley-oop
Haley.
layup type
Yeah,
thing.
it's, I'm hoping he gets a solid top 10, and you guys all wreck.
Ooh.
What?
Brett picked Haley.
Yeah, but Brett's not
Brett
here.
doesn't pick. He's not. He doesn't pick before me.
Yeah.
Not by last year's rules.
You got that list still?
He want Haley. He can have Haley. I'll pick.
Bring
someone.
it. Let me see your list.
He can have Haley.
Since we're all like laying up here.
He can have Haley. I'll take Ricky Stenhouse.
Ooh. All right. So he was on my list, but I will go with Ryan Preece.
That's a good pick. I like Ryan. Hopefully he keeps it on all fours this year.
Yeah.
That's good. Good picks. Casey, you made a pick, right?
I did. So
does Justin? Is Riley locked in? Yeah, he's in the Rick Ware car, right?
I think so.
he's
yeah.
yeah. So he's locked in.
So moving on to Daytona, what can fans expect as we watch the race?
Kind of the same thing we saw last year. There's not really. I don't think there's any changes to the package, right? Just the cars are a little different. You know, the Ford and Toyota cars are a little different.
Yeah. You're going to see a lot of guys look for each other that have been working with each other.
We're going to see the same thing we've seen at these last couple plate races where fuel is gold and saving fuel will be the prerogative of most of the teams because you want to, no matter what happens all day long, you are setting up yourself to put in the least amount of fuel on the last pit stop. So whenever that comes, that's basically become the entire race, the last 2 races of whoever can cycle to the front stays there usually because we can't really get a third line going. Patience becomes now more of a virtue than anything because I tried to be aggressive last year with Bubba in traffic and it just hurt us. So, guy like Denny was behind us. We started futzing around trying to, pull up in front of the third lane and go forward. And I think Denny ended up like 3rd at the second Daytona. And we ended up, I don't even know, somewhere in the teens or 20s. But the biggest thing you'll see throughout the race is guys topping off when you don't expect it maybe or saving fuel. If you see us 3 wide, that means somebody's saving fuel somewhere, consistently 3 wide. So you see a lot of that,
and we'll know who it is.
Yeah, the SNT data is very clear of, and you'll see guys like if there's a gap between guys, that means the guy behind that guy is not running 100% throttle.
Yeah.
Like they just feed me that information from the box because they can watch SNT.
Yeah, the engineers watch that stuff.
They can see the guy behind me going, he's only running 80% throttle. So that means our line's not going to have any energy. We're not going to be moving forward because guys in our line are saving fuel. So you might as well stay put. Or if somebody's coming up top with a momentum and they are pushing, you can get with them and jump everybody in that line. So that's a lot of that, and it's just become a lot of fuel saving and a lot of.
Yeah, the only thing I can say to that, Freddie, is that this year at Daytona is a little bit different. If it's hot for the race, it's going to be there. I think there's definitely an opportunity to be more 3-wide, legit, because if guys can't hold the bottom and they're fighting their cars, it's tough there. You have big lifts. You have big lifts on the exit of 4 if it's hot and slick. So I think it could be. It could be a lot more racy than the last, than like Talladega was.
I hope so. I really do. It's just what this thing. But I don't love this package. It almost you can't really be as aggressive as you're a great plate spotter. You could if you fell to the back, you had no concern because you knew whether it was you or the guy you were working with could get back up there. And right now, like if you get shuffled to the back with 20 to go, it's hard. It's hard to get back there.
Yeah.
So it is what it is, and that's what you're gonna be looking for.
You need help.
Yeah.
You need help.
What
we have a little bit from help this year.
I don't know. Can you say everything you're spotting for yet?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
as of right now, you can't go into drivers, but
as of right now, I'm just gonna do. I'll have Bailey Curry all year at Nice Motorsports in the trucks, which should be a lot of fun. He had a lot of He was pretty quick at the end of last year, and he's got a full year this year. So looking forward to working with him. He's young and hungry to run good. So, and it looks like I'm probably going to be doing anywhere from 10 to 15 races with JRM, whatever they decide on their 5th car. So I'll be able to clear Dale Jr. in stuff. So
he probably hasn't announced what he's running yet. ARCA, you going to ARCA Daytona?
Oh yeah, I'll have the Andy J.
Andy J, the gambler. Gambler
Andy
Classic
J.
winner.
Yep, he's had a pretty good off season.
Yeah,
Freddie, who do you have?
I am going to spot for obviously Bubba. I am going to spot for Kyle Sieg in Xfinity. Unfortunately, found out pretty late in the offseason that I didn't have an Xfinity gig, so luckily Kyle still had an opening, so I'm going to spot for him this year, and I'm going to do Ty Dillon in the trucks at the Rackley War Truck. Willie Allen and them guys called me up a couple weeks ago, so all that stuff. I'm actually, believe it or not, I'm going to do the ARCA race at Daytona.
Oh.
I'm actually not doing the Xfinity race at Daytona, and I'm excited about it.
I'm really excited. Billy Venturini had called me a couple months ago and asked about doing a handful of ARCA races, and I was like, no, I'm just not interested anymore. I'm going to spot for Justin Bonsignor, who's obviously a very good friend of mine.
I just saw that.
He's running for Rhett. I don't even know what the hell.
The trailer's in
the trailer's here.
The trailer's right here.
I'll park my backed up to it.
Yeah.
Mark Rhett's been a friend of mine for a long time. So Justin called me. I spotted for Justin back when he was probably, 15, 16 years old at Riverhead. And I've just been really good friends with his family for a really long time. So if anybody was going to get me to leave the hotel to go do ARCA racing, it's going to be Justin. So hopefully we'll have a good run with that. And hopefully everything goes well out there. I'm looking forward to working with Ty and the guys at Rackley.
Is Brett still couch racer or?
I can't tell you exactly what Brett's doing. Brett's going to spot this year. He's going to spot a handful of Cup races. Right? He's going to be actually primary at a couple ovals and stuff too. He's got a deal worked out where I think it's maybe 8 races, something like that, with a fairly prominent team that's going to run, I guess, an extra car somewhere.
Nice.
So he's gonna do some of that stuff, and then I'm sure he'll be maybe backup spotter at road course or something. He was trying to get me to get him on the second deal over there, but I think he was just looking for sneakers.
Probably.
So
same.
Well, Denny's got enough.
Yeah. No shit. 6 hours, Jared said it took him to take pictures of that.
I hope they paid him extra for that.
What I should give one idiot too. Whoever picked out Jared's what do we call that? Bib? Can we call that a bib for Jared?
His
5'12". Like you're one number off from being perfect. If it was 5'11", those are his 2 drivers. He kisses Kyle's ass all the time, and then obviously he's up Denny's ass. So that would have been just a perfect deal, and you miss it by 1 number.
Well, whoever is listening, if you make that decision, make sure you change it.
Change it up for Daytona. You still have time.
I know I saw a few tweets asking where to go in Daytona. Obviously, Oyster Pub.
Yeah, we'll probably be there. which I'm usually there all week, and I'm only going down Wednesday. This is the first time in probably literally 20 years I'm not going to New Smyrna.
Maybe
early.
I'll live tweet the Xfinity race. Maybe I'll just
Yeah,
sit on the
just
roof
sit
and
on the
live
roof,
tweet
yeah.
it. That way,
Tap
that way it
me on
doesn't annoy you.
Tap me on the shoulder, like, hey, what are you doing there? Why'd you make that?
Yeah,
move?
I'll be like the roof tweeter.
But yeah, we usually Oyster Pub's fun for us. We always end up there at some point. That whole area right there, there's Oyster Pub. There's a Cody Ugly Bar. There's another bar down the street from that.
You
We
can't
go to
go wrong in
sometimes.
that
in that area.
I mean, you
go to the
can.
Garlic to eat.
Go to the
Good
Garlic
Lord.
in New
yeah.
Smyrna. That's good.
Yeah,
The
that's so
Brickyard's
good.
back open.
Brickyard's back open. Yep.
Yeah, I've heard that it's the same as it was. I heard. So go there.
I found another restaurant there. It's called the Orman Garage.
Oh.
Really?
It's a little bit north, but it's really nice, like a little brewery type thing. Got really good food. So
Well, I'm sure you can find
You ever
these
been there?
guys there at some
It's
point.
a nice place.
We don't go to nice places. We go.
No, that is true. Big Al's.
Pretty much sums it up. Apparently, Chad goes there for lunch like every day. So
Big Al's?
I don't want to know.
Big Al's
But
is
yes,
great.
Yes.
Big Al's has got good food.
I mean, I agree, but
he goes from
there's
between
something
theirs
going
and
on
I'm
Florida.
gonna
there.
call him. What time does he go to lunch?
He's in Ocala for the week.
Oh.
There's no off season, so bike
He
racing in
bounces around
Ocala.
between there and Scores. For lunch.
I don't want to know. Anyways,
Good buffet.
thank y'all for listening to the first show of 2024. I know the best is yet to come.
Hopefully, I'm late for the show after Daytona.
That's
and,
what I said. We're working on a pretty cool guest for Daytona, and hopefully,
Brett has already asked to move the show later, so
yeah. Which
Does
is
Brett not know that we record at 9:30 on Mondays?
Brett
Like,
talk about everybody that like flew commercial for years because he was easily just jumping on a team plane, and now he's living in the world of having to fly commercial on Sunday night or Monday morning. And
all them
now-
other guys make it home before.
I
he-
still fly
like,
commercial and make it in time for the show.
I
so
think he's just lazy with it.
He is.
Well, no, it's not lazy. It's the fact that he wants to go out after, and he's not going to get up early enough to make it here on time.
Exactly.
There we go.
So
That's not lazy. That's just Brett being stupid.
yeah. So all right. Well, hopefully Daytona's
What else
good.
you want to talk about?
Yeah. Well.
We can keep going. Can somebody have lunch delivered?
Yeah. No kidding.
All right, I got a date. We gotta go.
Big house.
All right.
See ya.
Everybody
Have a great
good week.
Word.
See ya.